This was my good friend Levi's Suzuki RM125. If you're new here and you are unfamiliar with this bike, we made a video this spring of Levi blowing the bike up, and then we posted a video later in the summer trying to fix this thing. Both of those videos are linked in the description if you'd like to get caught up to speed. As it stands right now, the bike runs, although very rough and only in first gear and neutral. No bueno. So with the CR250 build complete, I finally have some time to tear this bike back apart and see if we can get this thing running and shifting once again. Also, if you would like to see the CR250 in person, it is currently at Yellowstone Motorsports in Bozeman, Montana. You can enter for a chance to win that bike through December 14th. I've watched Levi shred this bike way harder than anyone should be capable of. Seriously, I love 125s, and he offered for me to ride this thing once. I rode it for about 30 seconds and said, "Get me off of this thing." It was poorly tuned, the brakes sucked, the clutch sucked, the foot pegs sucked, yet Levi still managed to somehow smoke me while I was on my KTM 350. So, props to Levi. He told me when he sold me the bike for $1,000, it was under the condition that he gets to ride it one more time before I sell it. Let's get this thing back up and running so Levi can wreak havoc on it one last time. Let's go! And let's see how long it takes to have the motor on the workbench. Put your wagers in the comments of how long you think that took to get the motor on the bench. 21 minutes and 12 seconds from when I started turning the first bolt to now. Anyone who's afraid of having to rebuild your two-stroke, it takes 20 minutes to pull the motor. Also, I consider Levi to be really great at a lot of things, but clearly wrenching is not one of them. There were a lot of questionable things done during reassembly of that bike. Subframe bolts finger tight, the carb wasn't even tightened into the boot at all. That man can twist a throttle, but I don't know that he can turn a wrench. But that's okay. She's in good hands now, I think. I say that as I'm the one who helped him rebuild this motor and it's stuck in first gear. So let's see what we can figure out. Levi put the washers that were supposed to go on the head nuts on the base nuts. With the engine cases split once again, I thoroughly inspected the transmission for the 5th time. I made sure every gear was ordered correctly, every washer was accounted for, and there were no damaged components that I had overlooked. I ordered all new shift forks as I received this comment that made me think the shift forks, or at least one of them, must be the culprit. Visually inspecting them really wasn't all that helpful, and I don't have a dial indicator, but there are only so many factors that could cause a transmission not to shift. This seemed like the most likely place to start,
so I reinstalled the transmission and replaced all 3 shift forks. I temporarily installed the other case half to see if I could get the transmission through all 6 gears. I was indeed able to, and I ordered a new set of gaskets to actually bolt the case halves back together. I won't be fully certain of the shifting until the bottom end is torqued, but the fact that I could get it to shift through all the gears is certainly forward progress.
New gaskets have arrived, and while I'm still waiting on a couple components, including a clutch basket, because you saw how gnarly that notching was, we've at least got a new center case gasket, which means I can bolt these case halves together again and torque them down, and then make sure the transmission shifts. Fingers crossed that those shift forks solve the problem.
I installed the center case gasket, lubed up the transmission, and installed the left case half. I have not been torquing these bolts because a lot of the threads are on the verge of stripping, so I feel more comfortable tightening these bolts by feel in this case. The threads for this bolt were completely stripped out, so Levi and I slapped a washer and a nut on the back side of a longer bolt. Janky fix, but we weren't going for pretty solutions at the time.
Well guys, first in neutral. What could I possibly be missing? I don't know right now. But I'm gonna split these cases again, and we're gonna figure it out.
After many helpful suggestions from Luke over at Fathead Racing, Cameron Niemela, my dad, and some of my followers, I revisited this engine with a clear head and a determination to find the root of the problem. After splitting the cases again, I completely disassembled the transmission once again, and this time I measured all of the washers with a set of calipers to make 100% sure that everything was in the correct order. I was meticulous with my inspections and reinstalled the transmission after finding absolutely nothing of concern. I also finally decided to helicoil the damaged thread in the case to make this engine look a little more presentable and make sure that portion of the case is actually tight. With nothing of concern to note regarding the transmission, I shifted my attention back to an area that I had previously counted out as a possible culprit, the shifting mechanism itself.
So I think I may have figured it out, and if I did, I've been looking in the wrong place the whole time. I've taken the transmission apart so many times it's unbelievable. I cannot find a single thing that concerns me in the transmission, the shift forks, the shift fork rods, the transmission shafts, the drum. All looks good. So I finally came back to the shifting mechanism here and took it all apart. And we've got this guy right here, the shift cam stopper. And what do you know? When I started inspecting it a little more closely, I think it's got a little bit of a bend to it. And you can see a point right here where this has clearly been making contact with something that it should not be. Not to mention there should be a washer right there that was not installed. I'm not sure if I overlooked that upon first assembly or lost it, but that is something I should definitely be better at, as I know that needs a washer.
Since I was super curious if I had just overlooked this, I went back to footage from the initial teardown, and as it turns out, I have never removed this stopper until now. In my head, I must have figured, well, that doesn't need to come off for a transmission problem, which was true as a couple gears did need to be replaced, but it's a lesson learned in inspecting everything during a motor teardown after a failure.
I think it is quite possible, I may even go as far as to say probable, that this is the culprit of all of our problems. We'll get one of these and that washer ordered and see if this couple hours of brainstorming and looking thoroughly through parts will pay off. But waiting on that part does not mean a total halt in progress. These fork seals are absolutely oozing fork oil. This poor steel frame could definitely benefit from a little protection. And this rear brake line was mounted upside down, so it's got a pretty nasty kink right there that I don't trust. The Pro X carburetor rebuild kit, these fork seals, and the frame guards came from Prime MX. Get a couple fresh stickers and a handwritten note. No better customer service than Prime. And this rear brake line is simply used from eBay. I would have bought a new one, but I actually couldn't find one aside from direct OEM, and they were pretty expensive. This will get the job done.
get it like that. Sorry that you're jaded. Well, it is midnight. I just finished a hockey game, but parts arrived today and I have to figure out if my theory is correct or not. Old, new, so I was indeed correct about the bend. Look at that, and look at that. I was joking with my brother that if this doesn't work, I'm just gonna make a shiftless cart. It's like a shifter cart, except it doesn't shift. It'll have first gear only. Please shift. This has to be a joke. This is some sick joke. Oh. So there were a lot of factors contributing to this engine not shifting. First of all, the blown up transmission, that was important. The fact that this was bent, I do think was important, but it hurts. It hurts for me to tell you what I'm about to tell you. I really debated just saying this was the culprit, but there's more to it. My mother shifter was hitting the mother case. So now you guys are probably sitting there like, did I really just watch this whole video over a shift lever that was too low? And I'm thinking the same damn thing. Like, what the? The crazy thing about this is there's no way Levi's shifter was this low. The only other thing that makes this possible is the shift shaft was missing a washer behind it. That washer, in turn, pulls this shift shaft back into the case about 1 millimeter. So by fixing that missing washer, that millimeter might be just enough to cause this bent old shifter to hit the freaking case. Oh, you can't help but laugh, but it just goes to show you need to look at every single factor. I suppose this means this is good news and it's time to freaking reassemble this thing. Not tonight though, I'm going to bed, man. So I had to go back to old footage and see where this shifter was placed. You can see here, before the initial teardown, this is where the shifter was located. And with the shift shaft washer, it still won't upshift here. So my theory about the washer is correct because we know the bike used to shift here. And you can see here, when Levi reassembled the bike, he installed the shifter even a notch higher, which gave it no chance to upshift. This is a ridiculous thing to overlook, but I've never seen a shifter hit the case like this. It's always been the ignition cover, so I didn't even think to inspect right there. Additionally, during the final assembly, before Levi put the bike back together, I did get it through all 6 gears, but it was rough. The roughness, I believe, was due to that bent drum stopper that I replaced, as now the shifting is quite smooth. So, I went through a huge amount of unnecessary work, and Levi sold me the bike for $1,000 when we could have just tilted the shifter down, but it did result in fixing a different problem that we didn't really know existed. Either way, far too much time spent, but huge learning experience. If you're wondering what you're watching right now, I pulled the cylinder head to find no O-rings. We were incredibly lucky that the bike didn't allow coolant into the crankcase and blow up. Levi forgot the O-rings when he installed the top end, so I went to the box of RM parts he had given me to see if the O-rings from the gasket kit were in there. Indeed they were. Oh, Levi. Well, fuel on, choke on, let's see if she fires.
First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, fifth, fourth, third, second, first. Bang, bang. RM's back, baby. I can't believe it's been since May. It actually shifts really nice. I have ridden this and it never shifted this smoothly. What we fixed was undoubtedly important. Let's go. What a roller coaster of a project this has been, but the old RM125 is back, not only running, but shifting. And although I can't help but feel a little bit embarrassed about what the solution was, once again, I learned something and I didn't quit. I'm a man of my word, so I might have this bike for a while, as winter has arrived here in Montana, so Levi may not get the chance to ride it anytime soon, but he will get one more ride on it. There is now just 1 week until I select a winner for the CR250, so if you would like to enter for your chance to win, it is a great way to support me and my channel, as well as have a chance to win a badass two-stroke. If you would like to get yourself entered, you can do so on my website, kincaidpavich.com, and that link is in the description below as well. I have some awesome projects in the work to end the year and move into 2024, so if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click that subscribe button. We are approaching 100,000 subscribers, which is an enormous milestone, and I'm so excited to reach that. Thank you all so much for following along with this RM125, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Let's go! Wow!